This was well over a decade ago, but I wanted to share my story. I was born with a congenital heart disease and had surgery as a kid. Thankfully, I'm completely okay now, but sports were never my thing. I was small, skinny, and clumsy, unable to do the typical outdoor activities most kids enjoy. As a result, I faced my fair share of teasing and bullying. Just a typical experience for a geeky kid who didn't excel at football. In high school, we had a PE teacher who was a classic sports dude. He loved to make fun of the slower kids. I still remember how he forced my overweight friend to attempt a gymnastics jump from a trampoline over a stool. Of course, he fell hard and cracked his head open. By that time, I had found peace with myself and didn't let it bother me too much. But it was frustrating to see how he encouraged a jock culture that ridiculed the nerds. Our PE classes were filled with basketball and soccer. But because of my condition, I couldn't participate in explosive sports. I often had to sit down to catch my breath, and every week I was shamed for being the weakling of the class. Despite all that, I actually loved sports. I was always told by my parents and doctors to take it easy, but I discovered I had no problem with endurance and steady, long-distance efforts. As long as I didn't push myself too hard, I could keep going for quite a while. That's when I fell in love with road cycling. I first saw the Tour de France on TV and was hooked. I was super skinny and couldn't sprint, but I could climb mountains with ease. I got myself a road bike and kept my rides a secret from my classmates. Now, here comes the revenge. We had a class sports day with a bus arranged to take us to the top of a mountain for a hike. Our PE teacher announced that anyone who wanted could cycle up with him instead of hiking. I was the only one to volunteer. He was surprised and made some comments about keeping up and not waiting for you, but I insisted. He had no idea I was more than capable of climbing that mountain. He only saw me struggling in his classes. What he didn't know was that this was my home hill, starting just a kilometer from my house. I had climbed it over 100 times and knew it like the back of my hand. For cyclists, the climb is 12.5 kilometers long with a 6.9% gradient, perfect for a lightweight rider with good pacing and stamina. The day arrived, and I prepared as if it were a life-or-death mountaintop time trial. I showed up at school in my full racing kit, ready to go. I was 17, weighed 55 kg, and was totally prepared. He, on the other hand, was a typical middle-aged, overconfident ex-soccer player weighing around 90 kilograms on a standard mountain bike. It was the perfect setup. He set a relatively hard pace on the flat 10 kilometers before the climb, and I stayed quiet, letting him think he was in control. I took my time to get back on his wheel after intersections, and I could tell he thought he'd drop me the second we hit the uphill. Then the climb began, and it became clear to me, though not to him, that he was nearing his limit, and his pace was at least 5 km/h slower than what I could manage on that mountain. But I didn't attack. That wouldn't be satisfying. Instead, I started teasing him about how embarrassing it would be if the whole class saw me beat him. Then I took over the pace, slowly turning the screw on him. I picked up the pace just a little at first, then gradually more. After about 3 kilometers, I could tell he was in the red. I eased off, keeping him just slightly over his limit for the next half hour. I wanted him to suffer without dropping him. If he started looking too bad, I'd let him recover a bit before ramping up the tempo again. It was like playing mind games at a Tour de France level, and I've never enjoyed a ride more. As we neared the top, I let it rip for the last 300 meters. It was that classic humiliation attack every amateur cyclist knows. He dropped like a stone. I got my revenge and felt great about it. He muttered something about his heavy bike, but I kept my mouth shut. But it got even better. At the top, he was clearly dead. He had to vomit in the parking lot, and even though only a few classmates saw it, everyone knew. He had to sit out the hike, and I quietly enjoyed my victory with him. I didn't say a word after that, nor did he. He never made any comments to me in PE class again. The lesson? Don't bully your students. They might surprise you.